we'll go as we've been going in chronological order. The early kickoff is between Italy and France. Earlier in the this was the game that Italy would have picked out earlier since last year, and
definitely before the tournament anyway.
That this was the game perhaps to target in Rome. They've been playing well in Rome this year against definitely a flaky, imbalanced and not constantly changing and French team.
Definitely. What's probably freshly difficult for them as a result of just how the Six Nations has gone is just that, like, the eyeballs in France do watch the Six Nations, and there has been a sense enough of shame to kind of spur on a little something about the change and a little bit of something to kind of kick on. They've probably landed on closer to a mix that works for them as well, so with all that they're slightly dangerous, and off the back of a shutout performance basically that where they just couldn't get anything off despite feeling optimistic about themselves in Dublin, they'll probably be going to Rome feeling like they won't be facing anything like that kind of monster, and they're
chance
looking
to show
kind of
perhaps
finish
what they
something.
can do,
It's kind of similar to all French World Cup cycles. They've just left it off till the very last minute, and now they're kind of seeing exam time coming up and going like, oh, World Cup, oh yeah, I forgot about that, let's actually try and be really good at rugby, which we know and we've been saying the whole time that they actually could be, because they are
in fact more so even than maybe you would have said last November. There's now very much in a position to actually put something together, in my view. I mean, there's a lot of criticism coming off the Dublin game last weekend that in my view is a bit overblown. There are obviously some problems and still there. There's a structure and setup and professionalism deficiency going on when it comes to them compared to the big three in Europe at the moment. But what they do have is a lot of very, very good players, a lot of optimism, a lot of heads up rugby. They're much fitter than the team that was selected at the start of the tournament.
That's true.
Teams that you'd be used to. They can go 80 minutes. They can make tackles. Their issue last week was just that they were, facing the Ireland team, in my view, of 2018, which was, it was too good for them. They had them pegged back early doors. They did have some issues in the backfield at the start of the game that let Ireland out. But they were trapped and bullied and beaten up before they got a chance to show what they can do.
Get the ball, similar to that Toulouse game in Dublin, where that high-flying Toulouse team came and then, like, Leinster took them through phase after phase. It was very similar in that Ireland just made them, before they knew anything about anything, they had already made like an obscene amount of tackles, and by the end of the first half it was like 120 something tackles. That's like crazy numbers for even a full test match, let alone a first half. So like the dominance was telling, and it was leading to fatigue based errors in kind of in everything really. It's hard to signal in. Like occasionally you look at a play and it's very bad optically and you think that that's just a horrendous horror play, but the context of it is that it's like coming off
exactly
all of this pressure that's been built.
There was a lot of post-match analysis during that game that was unfair to the French, in the sense that it was just taking, like the Keith Earls try, a moment from the game where Demba Bamba made the slip up and just removing all context from it. The fact that Bamba had been really beaten up in the scrum early doors, as we'd kind of said pre-match, he scrums very high, like against a guy like Cian Healy,
who's all nerdy about exactly that, angles in the engage, and he's just got the upper hand. And again, drawing the parallel back where we had Famuina in that match against Toulouse, it's like when there's slight errors there, scrum time is a great way to exploit them, and if you've got a bit of a knock come scrumming down with Cian Healy, it's going to be a seriously sore affair. And by the end of it, and then sure enough, in the open play, you don't look like yourself and you make silly looking errors that are a bad picture.
He had actually gone off hurt in that game. Taking the scrum from the French wounds their pride and
has a knock-on effect throughout their whole game.
And so he was sort of beaten up, not probably 100% there physically, perhaps not 100% there mentally, and also in this place where his pride is a bit wounded and he's on tilt, and he sees CJ Stander of all men around the corner of the mall just carrying into the guy next to him, and all day long and all season long and all career long, your CJ mantra is to just take the contact and go forward and likely win the contact. So Bamba is thinking, no, he's going to charge into this guy next to me, I'm going to go and I'm going to hit him and I'm going to smash things and it's going to be a positive moment for me. And lo and behold, that's the error that Ireland have been looking for and isolated, and CJ of all men is tasked with popping the ball back inside.
It's a good little bit of subterfuge to have CJ in that role.
Totally.
Because no one's going to buy it. All the tape that they see shows CJ just trucking that up.
Yeah.
So no, that's definitely what I thought was like.
They were beaten.
They were just beaten
by a very good team.
Yeah, and they were like thoroughly outmatched. But that's not to say and some of the analysis they were like I did hear someone sum it up saying they were closer to the France that played against England and Scotland, and like personnel wise and even aspects of the performance wise, I wouldn't agree, including the fatigue thing. Yeah, you can point to the backfield coverage, and like even players like Ramos were not beaten up by like Demba Bamba, but were like looking very frustrated because they just hadn't seen any ball and had occasionally had to make tackles or reads or being penal. All you see of them is kind of an Ireland play where it nearly gets out to Ramos, but then it's the inside man and he has to fan out again. It's like that's been his contribution to the whole game. And there's just no way for those playmakers to play themselves in. And that's kind of the French team love to get their hands on the ball early, and that was what was deprived of them. And then even like what's a distinction with difference between that England performance and the Scotland one in terms of personnel, it's like the French tries that came late, be it with the bench impact as well. So the overall fitness of the team has increased, and they were still thereabouts, despite all those bludgeoning tackles that they've had to make. They were still capable of,
and they had made those tackles very well against, admittedly, like an Ireland attack that was not looking to sharp and clinical and attacking. But
that's kind of it. Like there's a question of, are they looking to pick holes or are they looking to make them make tackles? And they were exploiting the like that. France were found out for not having a poacher at all, so they're waiting for an Irish error. Which when they're in that mood and really like looking to put in a performance, like accuracy is going to be the mantra for that team, that Ireland team. So they were just waiting for them to make an error, which all day they weren't going to. And eventually they did, with the disjointed kind of nature of the substitutes. Then they took their foot off the throat, and that's when France showed how dangerous they can be and how quickly they can accumulate points.
Yeah, they turn line breaks into tries pretty easily. They have a tidy enough line out mould. Their bench up front is great. So there's absolutely no need for the panic and the hysteria that surrounds.
And even the 6 changes.
Well, I'm sort of split on that, because like making 6 changes again can't be good for the squad. Yeah, giving the guys who started last week another go and rectifying it against Italy and Rome might have been one way to go that you can respect.
6-day turnaround.
Yeah, but like this is the thing.
5-day turnaround, isn't it?
Yeah, this is the thing, and they've got the 6-day turnaround or the 5-day turnaround, whatever, and then they've got closer. I think this time, like every time they've made changes, they've actually got closer to having something, and they have isolated a lot of their problems and solved a good few of them. I thought that the sort of mass exodus of Clermont was a bit overblown and dramatic, and that maybe it was just Para who had to go,
and Van Mahina
has
gone this week.
That's my point, is that this week Fofana's back. Lopez is benching at 10, covering 10 from the bench, which is a good idea, a good man to have behind Ntamack, an actual option.
This is it. Whereas Bellew for the last 2 weeks has only come on as a purely theoretical games already over.
We're seeing from Wales having the more experienced and conservative sort of seeming 10 on the bench can actually have its own sort of impact, getting the experienced man on. Lopez probably isn't as good as Bigger, but he's a good man to bring on if Ntamack is struggling. So they've actually come closer to a balance. They did isolate obviously the huge glaring issues with their breakdown, not being able to stop anything that Ireland were doing from a defensive perspective. But in doing that, they've moved Vittoria to the bench and taken him out of the team. I would first see him back where he belongs, in the second row.
True. That being said, him off the bench against a tiring Italy could be a rampaging monster as well. Like, you don't know. So
no, I think there's a lot of good here. I think there's a lot of good. I think they'll put it together. In fact, in Rome, because I think a lot some of the squad has some confidence issues. I don't like the inclusion of Maynard again over Ramos. Yeah, and I think with Teddy Thomas back,
it doesn't change that much about what they want to do though. So as far as setting the system, maybe not. Houget is just a questionable constant.
He is, and with Teddy Thomas back. Yeah, you'd think that he can fill whatever Houget does on offense and then some. Yeah, with some of, but not with the major glaring defensive weaknesses that come into Houget's game.
It's true. Yeah, there's a lot of them, and it's very hard to ignore how they stack up, despite the fact that he did grab a try.
He was good. I mean, he like when he turns it on, he can play. But they're actually in a decent place ahead of this game, and I would back them to put it together. You're going to see some loose enough offense. It's about, if they can control the breakdown, keep Bromstein and the boys off of their ball, and then put some phases together against Italy. It's going to be a lot more work for Italy even than Ireland was. The Ireland game was curious because their defence obviously hadn't been making tackles, but it was, they knew what Ireland were going to bring was just trying to run over them, and then it was an easier thing to get ready for.
Sure.
Just bridging up and making your tackles.
Yeah, whereas with France, there's always a lingering doubt of what they're going to do.
Exactly.
And then couple that with poor tackle technique.
Yeah, well, it drains you a little bit mentally and makes you probably a little slower off the mark. And if France are throwing sort of elusive shapes at you and then moving the ball out wide and forcing you to run, you're less likely to be 100% in your contact, and that's where the Italian defenders really do.
Yeah.
Struggle.
They do. Well, it's one-on-one. This is what must be making Conor O'Shea's hair tear out, is just they are more often than not.
Conor O'Shea's hair.
Yeah, it's already gone, long gone. But that's a funny one. I didn't even cop that. But they're shaped up, they're numbered up, and they just miss a tackle before you put teams under enough pressure to pull you out of your shape. You've already just conceded, and that so often is what happens with Italy. And they can, before doing so, they can put together some phases. This Italy team, that's where this positivity that's also vague while there are no results to back it up. But that's where you can kind of see it, is that there are little flashes of, they just look a little bit more like a rugby team than the Italy team's gone by, where at least forwards are getting into some kind of shape. There's a pod there, they're trying to move the ball from here to there. Like everybody else, learned a lot about offensive rugby and its merits from the last World Cup. Yeah. From the sort of blistering offensive display that the top four in the Southern Hemisphere laid down on everybody. Yeah. And that really did change the game, and lesser sides, with the exception of Georgia, who've been plugging away. Even actually, no, to be fair, including Georgia, and especially immediately after that World Cup, they did as well. Get a lot into that. Yeah. A lot of sides around the world, really, that was a lightning bolt for how to play this game. And at the same time, you had the Connacht thing going on, and it was you can get some guys who are not necessarily as good theoretically as the top guys, and then teach them how to be really quick and just have really good catch pass skills and good instincts for the attacking game, and all of a sudden you're finding tries against slower teams and wins there. They're often come.
And Italy are on board with that. They attack well these days.
That's not really where their problems lie as often. When they're put under pressure and they can't defend, and especially when they're forcing a game, so they've conceded 14 points already against a bludgeoning offense, and then they feel they have to try and make something, then they start making sloppy errors on offense as well, and then leak ultimately more tries, which is kind of what we saw. If we're going to look back from Italy's point of view, getting an absolute drubbing that was also on the cards in Twickenham, and there's just no way that game was going any other way. England picking the team, even before it, when England named that team, you were looking at it going this is a terrible matchup for an Italy side that haven't been making one-on-one tackles against not even that big of men, and then suddenly Elliot Daly was carrying two people through contacts and getting his hands free. That's Elliot Daly, the smallest guy England have on that pitch. And meanwhile, Tuilagi just sauntering through. There was just no way of stopping them, and even in that, the 14 points they did score were good. Tommy Allen's try was good, and either side of half time they had attacking sets that came to naught, but were good for a time. And it was there, but for executing perfectly, that could have been their 4 tries had both of those gone their way. I don't think they were ever for winning that game, which was why I was glad to see that they didn't kick 3, although I'm sure it was mooted in terms of a tactic because they were already so far behind by the time they were in a position
if it was 0-0 when they'd gotten those penalties, they would have chipped away and got 3.
That's what's wrong. That's what I question. I just see there's always going to be a spell in that game in Twickenham where England are just running over them and through them. So I was recognising that. Although it's a defeatist enough attitude, but it's realistic. And as it stands, they're going into a home game against France that they're looking to target because of where France have been for the last few years. They're probably, Conor O'Shea knows in his heart of hearts he's probably not going to face that animal because France have been wounded already and they're going to be looking to do something positive before the tournament ends. So they need to be trying to still target this game at home and try and get some points from it, because failing that, even with a losing bonus point, they're worse than last year as far as table points accrued, and that's got to be partly down to just not going for bonus point. Try bonus points every time from minute 1, kickoff number 1 in week 1. That's all Italy should be looking to do in this tournament. if they're looking to progress, be it with that, like you're saying, embracing and attacking rugby and finding tries against better teams by being quick. They also do need to just work on their tackles.
There are fundamentals of the game that are just missing there, and long term, it's hard to see. Like don't get me wrong, O'Shea's doing all the right things, but it's picking from a much smaller base than actually. It's one of the things that I probably do question about the Conor O'Shea approach is just in terms of long-term competitiveness. They're actually they have their little base of rugby, tight-knit rugby communities, but it's a very small little place to be picking from. Yeah, and probably the attack should be about maybe expanding the game more, and maybe there should be more efforts put into that sort of getting non-rugby communities into rugby at a grassroots level. I don't know how much of that is going on, but it seems like the emphasis, at least in a selection level for the likes of Treviso and Italy in general, is all coming from a pretty small area.
Seemingly so.
So it's just going to be hard to find the athletes to compete.
Yeah. Unless you're going poaching from footballers who couldn't be footballers and try and convert them and all, but then that's limited in approach as well, because those kinds of experiments have been conducted by all kinds of teams. This is why they're just so far behind in that developmental process that it's like
they don't even know where they are or what they are as a test team. And O'Shea's trying to give them a bit of that, but I'm thinking it's probably going to be limited in terms of its ability to succeed, comparable to, and not as bad as, but comparable to Bernard Jackman and Dragons, that it's just you're probably doing all the right and honourable things, but there's just no way you can compete on your face with Leinster, and that's
a sad reality about it. And this game hopefully could be different if they make their tackles like they did against Ireland and Wales for the great periods, and attack with a little bit more
kick the ball a bit as well.
This is also true. Like against Wales, that was what they were sorely lacking,
and it has worked every week against France.
Yeah,
when it was executed by basically everyone kicking into that backfield. They got Mader and Huget back there again. Doing just a little bit of class and a little bit of subtlety, not doing it. Not doing it when you're made to do it, but also not doing it predictably off first phase. Doing it off first or second phase.
Well, this is the danger of it, is like trying it early on in the game, being a bit sloppy, concede a soft kick return try, panic.
I know. I mean, you can see, when you're Italy, you can say that about it. If the game plan is to keep it in hand, it's like, oh, that's risky, because what if we just drop it or throw an intercept?
I know. It's coach killing errors that are always the undoing.
Well, that's the thing. I know he had a rough week last week, but I think you back the boots of Tito and maybe Jaden Hayward if you're Italy. No bombs, none of that stupidity. Finding grass, finding touch, making England reset and do set pieces and exit and go through all those formalities rather than being in an attacking mindset. Making France do all of that.
That would have, in theory, been what they were trying to do last week as well.
You can copy paste it. They have a limited set of winning conditions,
and a lot of them do rely on the look of a lack of intensity showing from their
attack that French line out. Bramstein's a good poacher of
Bramstein is a good poacher of a line out. He gets up high into, he looks a little bit like a Peter O'Mahony in terms of the workload he gets through for that team sometimes as well. He's a bit of a workhorse, and very physical. So they do have positives. They're more up for the physicality of it, and they're just in shape and in execution. They look a bit more like a rugby team than ever before. But the problem is they're just nowhere near as good a rugby team as any of the other rugby teams in this tournament.
To my mind, it's a territory game for them this week. You get into the territory, and then once you're there, you don't let up. They're pegged back in their 22. You make them exit. You go back again. You maybe try if you're just in their half. If the picture presents itself, you peg them back again, or you use some of those attacking chops to maybe create something, and it's all about scoring tries once you're down there, but having the game take place in the French half, that's gotta be key.
And probably try and just slow it up. A little stop start would probably suit Italy a bit more than it would France, although
maybe probably because Italy are more likely to make errors.
Exactly, and France, this
chaos
France
ball
anyway,
is
with these halfbacks are going to be vying for the chaos ball,
and they're going to be quick
matchups, and just even because off turnovers, you don't necessarily need to work hard to fashion an overlap against Italy. Just put your big men in space quickly and have them run over one or two guys, and then you're away, get your hands free. Like France, I think, will be looking to play a very pacey game in probably dry conditions over in Rome, I suspect.
Whereas Italy do want to make it a scrappy affair.
A little bit.
Lots of scrums,
more Treviso kind of look
exactly.
to a home game against Treviso, and how annoying that can be for the teams that come there, especially if they're stuttering.
And that's the big difference with Italy these days and Treviso, is that let up that you're hoping for when they are competitive in games doesn't
seem to come as
so
much.
So they're sort of like, oh, there's a noise. That's when you're 60 minutes in and you're expecting maybe because of tackles them to start falling off tackles. Maybe they don't, and that's certainly been a picture for Treviso. Early, keeping it tight, keeping it scrappy, but you got to be and being patient, because their attack as good, like as somewhat good as it has been, is France's defence against Ireland and even against Scotland. Like, we were critical of Scotland's offence, but France just didn't give them anything. So they don't miss tackles, they don't leave big holes. Italy are going to have to be patient, I think, and kick the ball, find grass. That's the weakness for France. Could be if Italy have their way, could be a few 3-pointers for us. See, this is it. Like, do they go for the tries in that scenario then against this French team? How much do they back themselves to get them?
That's the problem. They don't have any confidence. They don't have any evidence for either of it working. So you say kick 3, but I know in my heart of hearts that when we do that, they score 14. Or we say go to the line and go for it. That when we do that, we knock it on or throw it straight. So it's probably a very disheartening little kind of quandary to be at, but I think the more optimistic one, when you're at home the final day, is go to the corner, try at least to score a try and win.
And that's the point as well, is that they need to be galvanised and they need to be in it, and that's tries are the way to get there.
Indeed, the whole team can understand and get on board.
We spoke earlier in the tournament, like France, I think, have turned a corner in the sense that Scottish performance was very positive for them in a lot of ways, and we didn't learn too much about them from them getting bullied by Ireland.
No,
they're not at Ireland's level,
which we knew anyway.
But then so that brittle confidence that we were speaking about earlier in the tournament could rear its ugly head if Italy create that picture for them where it's tight and they're ahead with a couple of tries early doors, and France don't get to be their free-flowing selves.
That's the idea.
It's just, France, just no fear. If I'm France, just this is Italy, jouet. Let's go.
Let's go and play some rugby and score a load of tries, get some highlights, and go into the World Cup warm-ups with a bit, and then the World Cup with a bit of pomp.
It's I'm predicting France to do something similar to that, to actually put up a score.
What I think as well. So best of luck, Italy. Same as we said last week. We're hoping you do well, but we're also thinking France are probably going to roll into town and take that one.
Or at least produce enough positives to get a decent scoreline going. And maybe not all perfect for them.
No, it may not be plain sailing, but I think a comfortable enough win in the end, and a bit of a head scratcher, and the same post-match interview from Conor O'Shea again. Disappointing.
Maybe wear a funny hat next time to keep it fresh.
Could do. A little Italy hat.
It's a tough gig. I don't envy him.
No, I don't.
Thanks for watching the Overlap Rugby podcast. If you enjoyed that video, please like down below and subscribe for more videos. And please enter the comments section to join our conversation. Thanks.